Welcome back. Now, everyone, of course, myself included, wants to have a yard that is the envy of the neighborhood. And every month, of course, our friend Perry Stothart from Classic Landscapes and Ellerslie Gift and Garden drops by with some great tips and tricks. And we are surrounded by Daintree's Garden right now. So we are talking about how we can save it and things to consider this time of year as we're getting our gardens back up and running for the summer months.
Yeah, so I brought some plants in that are going to look exactly like our yards now. Obviously, things haven't leafed out. We're getting right on the front edge of spring. We're starting to get some longer days. And plants, your turf is going to start responding to the longer sunlight hours. And so the warmth is part of it, but more importantly, the sunshine and getting more of it. So what I wanted to talk about in terms of pruning today, and we'll talk about that, focusing on when we're wandering through the yard, what do I look for? What am I deciding to do? I brought a few samples here. I've got red osier dogwood, a burning bush. So again, deciduous plants. So those ones that drop their leaves in the winter. There's a grass just off to the left of you. That's a Carl Forster feather reed grass, a beautiful one. And then we've got a tree that we'll talk about as well. Now, these are smaller plants. Obviously, maybe you have a new plant in your garden. Maybe you did something last spring. But I'm going to tell you that anything I talk about today, you can scale up to larger plants. Okay. So the principles we're going to cover today, again, applies to big trees, small shrubs, big shrubs, what have you. So as we go through, the first thing to consider for sure is the kind of tools we're going to use. And so the most important tool you're going to have is just a hand pruner. This is a bypass pruner, and we call it a bypass pruner. If you can kind of see here, it actually, if I go like this, you can see it actually cuts past like a pair of scissors. Oh, so that's, okay. The blade is bypassing the other one. There's anvil pruners where the blade goes into the anvil pruner. You want to have a bypass pruner. You're going to get a cleaner cut. Okay. Having a nice sharp tool, clean cut, really important for the overall health of the plant. And if you go to larger loppers, these are the same kind of principle, again, bypass. One of the issues with these is they can go up to 2-inch branch, but as you can imagine, it takes a lot of leverage. And so if I'm going to go right into camera, you'll see my hands kind of twist when I have to put pressure on it.
It's a lot of work.
It's more work, especially when you're reaching. The other thing about the twisting is it's going to rip the branch more than cut it. So you want to be careful with that sometimes. So I'll tend to go to a pruning saw, which I love. Pruning saws, you'll see, typically will have a curved blade, not always, but it brings the teeth closer together. Okay. And so you actually get more cutting surface, and it cuts on the in and on the out. Some saws it's only one directional. This is unidirectional, so a more efficient tool in terms of doing the cutting.
So then when we're doing some pruning, how do we determine whether or not it's, the small one, the medium size, or the saw? Like, do we have an actual diameter for the branch that says, hey, you really need to scale up?
Yeah, and so that's a good principle. You do want to cut the largest branch first. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the overall plant, and again, we'll talk about some of the things right here, but typically speaking, do the largest cuts first, because if you can imagine, if I cut all the small branches and then I'm taking the big branch anyway, well, I just turned 30 cuts where I could take care of it with one. Another rule of thumb is don't ever take off more than about 30%. If you need to do heavy pruning, a third of the tree. Once you start getting to that level, even a quarter, then next year, more pruning. So, all right. If I've got this, so I'm looking at a couple things. So if we're going to start here, we'll look at this red osier dogwood. Generally speaking, it's got really nice form. The branches are all kind of even and spreading out. So I'm not going to do a lot of pruning on one like this. But one thing I'm going to look at, see here, there's a branch just right here that's a little bit discolored. Maybe a little tough to see on camera, but it's a little more grayed out. Yeah. So it's probably dead. Okay. But if I'm not sure, I can kind of just grab it. And if I just start to bend it, you'll see it kind of snaps. And so that means that branch is dead. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prune off, a little branch like that, clean it up. So that's the kind of thing I'll do there. So I'm looking for the 3 Ds, dead, damaged, diseased. That's a dead branch. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it alone. If I don't need to prune it, it's better to stay away.
I do want to make sure that we get to some of the other stuff while we still have about a minute left. For the grasses, is this something you have to trim in the fall before the winter, or something in the spring before it starts to green up again?
Yeah, you can do both. I prefer to leave them through the winter because it offers some winter interest. They'll poke up through the snow. They look kind of cool. If you prune them or cut them back in the fall, no problem. They'll start growing back. This time of year, even if you don't cut them back, they'll start to green up, but they're going to, it's going to take longer. So I just cut it off, ground level. You don't need to shave the dirt, but again, ground level is important.
Okay, and then for trees?
Okay, trees. What I'm going to look for, this again, same kind of simple structure. I'm going to look for branches that are crossing. You can kind of see here this branch comes up and it's actually crossing. It's going to start rubbing against it. Now for a healthy tree, much like us, infections aren't a big deal if it's healthy, but if the tree's suffering and you start getting wounds, it provides an opportunity for infection to get in. So something like this where I see it's going to cross, I'm actually just going to prune this branch right off.
Oh, right down by the main...
Yeah, I take it right off, closer to the trunk. Now I've sort of cleaned it up, opened it up, and again, I don't have that rubbing branch. And so those are some of the things you want to look for: rubbing branches, dead, dying, diseased, clean those up. And again, it's a good start this spring.
Excellent. Well, I've got some work to do in my garden now for sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For more great ideas on how you can check out Classic Landscaping and Ellerslie Gift and Garden, they are of course located at 100th Street and 6th Avenue. And for more info, you can always call them at 780-988-9888 or visit them online at either classicgardens.ca. Or of course, you can also follow them through their Twitter handle at ClassicLandSCP. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.